what we were talking the last week. Not last week, before last week. There was one class. I think.
Contemplation of the feeling of mind.
Was it, we were discussing about it, contemplation of the feelings and mind, right? Okay. All right, can we start now? It's okay. All right. All right, first of all, Happy New Year. And today what is the day today? It's 7th, so I think we're still allowed to say Happy New Year. Besides, we have many New Years also coming. One is Chinese New Year, and then another is Indian New Year in April. Or, really? Yeah, and that's how these Thai people also celebrate, or even Sri Lankan people, right? They celebrate that. Very different. If it's South Asia, celebrate different date, and then some culture also celebrate a different date. Okay, now, so I need to just have a very rough review on what we have read. So we are still reading this, the Buddhist text called is the Discourse on the Foundation of Mindfulness, but particularly now we're only reading the Chinese version. So actually the four foundation of mindfulness is one of the very unique and very important texts. But of course, if you are only belong to any tradition, so maybe you just think, oh, that's only the text. But this is what now, one of the way that we try to study here is we don't want to, we are not here to promote any so-called Theravada Buddhism or so-called Mahayana Buddhism or so-called or Chinese Buddhism, whatever. But we just wanted people who know there are actually many Buddhist material. So, and then we try to learn all these, not all, I mean, at least we try to learn what I think is more important, several materials that relevant to the subject. That means the foundation of mindfulness. And at first we just go through it. So we just go through it. At times we need to maybe elaborate a little bit. But then we'll go, after when we finish, so far we're reading the Chinese version. Actually Chinese, basically we have two versions of this foundation of mindfulness. But one is that certainly kept in this, this Madhyama Agama. So if you don't understand the term, you have to raise your hand. Because it's also a very common term that we use, especially in university. So it means the middle length, what we call the middle length discourse in the Chinese version. Okay, and then after that we are trying to read the Pali version, that which is of course in the Pali language originally. And in Chinese, there are another version actually. You could find that similar text, which actually even in content are a little different too. Just like when we do the comparative study, that which is a very basic way of doing the study first, that you do a comparative study. And that the other Chinese version is in the what we call the Ekottara Agama. Okay, it's mean you can translate it as a numerical Agama, not the Pali, but in the Chinese. Of course, in Pali also you do have another version beside the version here is from the middle length discourse. The other version is in the long discourse. But the content of long discourse just almost the same, okay, but just maybe have one or two more what we call the elements there on it. And then you also, we were going to try to read something once we finish this, and we also trying to read something since some of you, I would say not most, some of you don't understand Chinese. So then we may be best to read this actually the Pali, because we have the English translation of this about the foundation Samyukta, belong to this what we call the how to translate that in English? I forgot. Samyukta Nikaya. Okay, yes, connected discourse. Okay, so that also about the foundation of mindfulness. So and of course we would from there. And there are several of the Chinese master who also address this foundation of mindfulness. Okay, we are going to use those material. So then you become almost like, what I usually like to say is more like then you perhaps more like a robot, you know, you have a well-rounded knowledge of what the foundation of mindfulness is about, okay, in a bigger scale. All right. The foundation of mindfulness, why is so important? Even mentioned in the Old Master in China. But in Pali, of course, I don't have to mention. Definitely it's an important text. In history, even in Sri Lanka, so it's in Sri Lanka, it's because the monk, actually when the Buddhism almost declined in Sri Lanka after the colonization, start from the Holland to Portuguese, and then to the British colonization. So even in history, so when one lay person, he was anyway had the chance to study this Pali language with another guy who was in prison, maybe because of political reason. So and he also realized that the first text, Pali text, he started to learn, so-called according to his memoir, is that the foundation of mindfulness. And that's also actually inspired him so much that he need to revive the Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Okay, so you could see that even in historical reason also, especially in Sri Lanka, so it has a really significant value there. And even that, certainly traditionally, we know that when those who want to do meditation, who strive for the liberation, so-called enlightenment, so it is very clear, without the four foundation of mindfulness, there's no way that you can attain so-called Buddhahood and Arahantship, okay? But maybe you will think, oh, this is just a Hinayana idea, so this is not Mahayana. Mahayana don't think so. But you'll be surprised. You'll be really surprised that it's the same idea in the Mahayana. So perhaps, certainly even in different Mahayana texts, they might have emphasis of the importance of the paramita, so-called perfection. But that is because you want to be reborn and have a lot of merit in your life so that you can ultimately become a Buddha. But it's all agreed in Mahayana also, if you want to attain so-called enlightenment, you still have to practice the four foundations of mindfulness, even in the Mahayana text. Unfortunately, this kind of information was not very commonly widespread, especially in the Mahayana circle.
It's changing.
Huh?
It's changing.
No, I'm just saying this. I don't say this because...
America is changing.
So, I don't think so. America, lots of Tibetan, they study Tibetan Buddhism. I don't think they even know what is four foundations of mindfulness. No, I don't think so. I just want to say this is not, it's not widely understood in that way. But when you have to look at all the old masters, they all agree, if you want to gain enlightenment, there's no any other way but still have to follow the four foundations of mindfulness. So, I mean, there was a few of the Chinese Mahayana, like the famous like Kumarajiva, and then even like a Tentai Shuzi Fa Shi, and there are so many different of the very great master meditators, they all said the same thing. So, it's, so I want to say this because don't think that you're learning the foundation of mindfulness, this text is really like a Hinayana thing. Actually, it's have to understand it's the only way that, according to Buddhism, it's the only way that anyone, if you want to attain the enlightenment, that is the way you go through. Might be different only result as you are like what we call the Sakyamuni Buddha, who have the merit in the past. So a great merit, without anybody, he could just, without teacher, he could actually still practice four foundations of mindfulness and attain the Buddhahood. Okay, the only difference are those. You know, I'm sure that when those who are highly engaged in meditation, they understand. Even though, you know, you might be all study the meditation under the same teacher or same system, but every ability is different, everyone's. But the result will be the same, that you cut off all the defilements, but the ability are different. You know, some are eloquent in the language, some are much more much friendly to people. When I say friendly, I mean at least people find more comfortable with them, right? Some are much more good at, you know, organizing certain things and so on and so on. Everyone is are different. So that's why Buddhism later on developed many understanding, try to figure out why they are different. And that's also one reason why the later Buddhism was trying to not only figure out that, they also try to figure out why there are differences and how there are differences. And even if the Buddha as a perfect person, and how can be he is different from the other. So that's the reason why the Mahayana more emphasis on that part. Not that they forget about the four foundations of mindfulness, but of course, when the times go long, and the four foundations of mindfulness become ignored and neglected, kind of like a neglected, because the practical side, very down to a practical side, become neglected. So okay, right. That's one thing. The motivation for you why study the text is so important. Okay. Right. Let's back to the text. Since we start with the Chinese, so I want to ask first few questions first. The first question, of course, what is the unique, almost like examination, okay? So in the Chinese, what the first paragraph, when we look at page 4 in English, okay? So I did mention that here there's, of course, there's a lot of explanation. What does it mean? What does it mean by there is one path, okay? The word one path, they have, according to the Pali version, they have many explanations. There are 5 explanations. So I'm not going to ask about this question now. So because when we look for the Pali again, definitely we'll discuss that again. Let me remind you, we discussed that again. So I want to ask that, according to this Chinese text, there's one unique thing. It's mentioned that, okay, why don't we ask like that? Look at the page 4. The first paragraph, I didn't mention, but I like to say that first. First, we must find the uniqueness in Chinese version. Okay, according to your opinions, what is the uniqueness here on the page 4, the first paragraph? When I say unique here, it might not be necessarily mentioned in the Pali version. Which word do you think? Anyone volunteer? Tracy?
I don't know the Pali version, sorry.
No, I don't miss you know the Pali version. I mentioned about that. So, fine, if you guess, which do you think is a uniqueness? I give you the hint only, just give me a second. I give the hint already, said my term of uniqueness is, because it's a very important term for the Chinese. Of course, and also in contrast to the Pali version, you don't find it. But let me say that again. I don't mean because of that is unique. Actually, even Pali don't find it, but in the Samyutta Nikaya, I mean the Pali, they do have the same term. But in this text, I think it's one uniqueness. To you is what? Pure foundation. The pure foundation?
No, purification.
Purification.
You mean for purification of beings? Okay. No, it's all right. I just want to see your opinion. So, any? Someone?
It seems like this mentioning of past Tathagatas is not in the Pali version.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's that is comparative bit with that, but you think that is unique.
I just know it's not in the Pali version. They completely destroyed.
Well, here it's only just emphasis on even the past Tathagata also actually they also have to establish these 4 foundations of mindfulness to develop the 7 factors of enlightenment, right? So in other words, mean all the Buddha have to do the same thing, okay? So this is also why I say, even in Mahayana, agree with that has to, what is the unique here? All right, this I will just put up my opinion. Actually, the uniqueness is that here they say, for obtaining the true Dharma, okay? So for obtaining the true Dharma, there is one path for obtaining the true Dharma, namely the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Okay. But in other words, everybody want to obtain so-called the true Dharma. So of course, in Pali you have this purification, you have this is also one path that is for surmounting of sorrow and fear and eliminating suffering and distress. And then actually, but the Pali, not, I mean in the foundation text, the text of the four foundation of mindfulness doesn't mention for obtaining the true Dharma. But the same word it does mention in other else in Pali version, but not here, not in the text. Okay, I think this is, in other words, sometimes we say that, okay, you know, the very famous school like the Lotus School, right? The Lotus School always say, you know, Saddhamma. Saddhamma means that you actually how you can able to obtain the true Dharma, right? The really true Dharma. Of course, in Lotus Sutra have a different opinions, but I'm saying here it's. But the text is say clearly in Chinese version say, the four foundation of mindfulness is the one path, the only path you can the path that to obtain the true Dharma. Okay. So that's one thing we need to understand. And the second question I'm going to ask, in the Chinese version, with regard to practice the contemplation on the body or of the body, how many elements are mentioned there?
Six.
Really? Just 6 only?
Yeah, on the book.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Depends on how you want to. What the 6 elements counts.
I counted for you already. See? You didn't look at the book.
The jhanas count as 1 or 4. Perception of light. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I counted already.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11. Unless you want to have subcategories of 6 elements.
Actually, I have 14 here.
14. And then the jhanas, the 4 jhanas.
Okay, now let's go for the place first. In order to, I don't want to get confused. The page 4, right? Can you look at the page 4 contemplation of the body? You have 1.1, right? The Romanized letter 1.1. That is mean how one have to learn to practice the meditation meditate on the body with regard to the body. So that is first you have to know when you're sitting, you know you're sitting. When you're reclining, you know reclining. When you're waking up, you know you're waking up. When you fall asleep, you know you fall asleep, and so on, right? That's one. And then the second one, when you're stretching your body, you know you're stretching your body. When you're bending your body, you know you're bending your body. When you're holding a bowl, of course in tradition, you know, the monk hold a bowl for the alms giving. So and then you know you're holding a bowl. You know everything, right? So that's a kind of a progressive way. And after that, and the number 3, and then so since then, you need to train your mind, determine your mind. You need to train your mind. Basically, any bad thought, you need to cut it away. Any good thought, you need to retain. That's number 3, right? But I mentioned already in the past, it's a little bit strange to put it here in some way because it doesn't look like this is regard something to do with the body. So, and that also become a question also. Of course, I don't mean the answer now, just a question for us that even though we talk about contemplation of the body, do we always necessarily just restrict the body as a physical body or understand the body as a collective? Because in Pali or in Sanskrit, the word kaya can be understood as not the material body. It's one way to understand, but kaya can be understood as a collective thing of the thing, a thing, you know, the word kaya, okay? It doesn't look like a Chinese have that kind of tendency. But otherwise, they could arrange it. Or maybe because you could argue that the Chinese texts have more progressive way of how to say laying out the text. So that means after you know you're stretching your body and you need to learn how to train your mind, always only put away the bad thought, but always retain the good thought. Okay, that's what the number 3. And then the number 4. Right, and then number 4 that you need to how to clench your teeth, you know, press your tongue against the palate, and use your mind, you know, to counteract. Use your mind to fight with the mind. Basically means you get to be strong, very determined to your practices, right? And then the number 5 on the page 8. Can you follow me? Okay, on the page 8, And then he start to talk about the fourth, actually here, I counted as 6 steps of the mindfulness of breathing, right? Because the first step is, the first one is not a step. The first is like almost like a foundation or primarily a rudiment understanding of breath. That means you know there's in-breath and out-breath. And then you have to know, well, when the in-breath is in-breath, out-breath is out-breath. And then when the breath long, you know it's a long breath. When the breath either inhaling, exhaling, when it's a long breath, you know it's a long breath. In the same way to the short breath, right? But the Chinese version have a little interesting. Not only that, which is a little different from what usually we understand from a Pali version, is then you know the whole breath in the body, but that depends on how to understand the whole breath in the body. You know, in different version and different understanding. Then we discussed that already in the past. I'll just give you a guide, just a kind of revise. And then you have to know when you stop the breath while you're in breath. However, and then you stop the breath while you have to stop the verbal breath while you're out breath. Okay, it's a kind of indication. This is my suspicion. It means that you start to able to have a jhana, because usually if you practice the in breath and out breath so well, usually when you start to have a jhana, is that the out breath will go out first, and then the kind of like the nimitta, the site of the meditation, stabilized. Okay, but that's how the Chinese version is written. Okay, and then still on page 8. After that, then he talk about the first jhana, the second jhana, the third jhana, and the fourth jhana. So, but the interesting here that all the first jhana, second jhana, the third jhana, fourth jhana, the description is less on the mental, but more on the physical feelings. Okay, so more on the physical feelings. In other words, it looks like we suspect this is belong to Sarvastivada school. Okay, and this Sarvastivada school that understand the 4 foundation of mindfulness with the jhana tool, and then it's also still belong to the foundation, the establishing the foundation of mindfulness on the body. Okay, right. So the first jhana is on the number 6, the second jhana on the number 7 on page 10, and the third jhana was on page 8, and then on the page 10, sorry, number 8, and then now we go to the page 12, that is the I.9. So when you see the bracket I.9, the second paragraph, that is the 4th jhana. Okay. Now, after understanding the 4th jhana, what you have to do, actually this is really a using in Yogacara Bhumi also Sastra. The system is very much a Yogacara Bhumi Sastra, 就是一切四谛论啊。So, and on the page 12, it say that the foundational body, after that when you have 4 jhana, so what they would do is that on the 10th, it's that all the time people have to well regard their light, the light, okay? Don't let the light goes away. So that's why it said that, the third paragraph on page 12, among attending to the conception of light, observe well, uphold well, and fastens well upon his mindfulness. Okay, so that's a thing. And then we move to the page 14. That is the foundation of body, the number 11 elements. Then he have to observe the body as a body, how it do that. He almost like somebody sitting aside and see himself in any different type of posture. Okay. So I don't know how much detail we discussed last time, but anyway, if you have questions, we can ask later. Okay. And after this, and then he able to observe the body. The body, either you like it or dislike it, from the head to the feet, and then you're able to see lots of this, what we call the impurity in the body, that is the different part of the organs. Okay, so here have the list of 31. Okay, but of course, in some tradition put 35. Okay, here list 31 here. The list can be different from text to text. Okay. Okay. And after a person meditates and can observe the body, have 31 kind of impurity organs in the body. So of course then you also understand your body through meditation much more detailed, and then you move to the 13th that elements. That is, then you start to also can be differentiate all these organ, either the organ is belong to, whether all this, it's not clear whether it's just organ, but actually because in Chinese I have two ways of explaining. One way explaining that you understand, for example, when you observe this urine, the blood, the, how to say, the phlegm, and your, how to say that, this kind of liquid on the nose, is forgot, mucus and all this belong like the water element. So, but if you see the organs, say the heart, the lung, you could understand that as the earth element, and then you see this, what is that? What else? Fire elements, for example, the temperature as a fire element. What elements I forgot to mention?
The space and consciousness.
No, the wind. The wind elements. Say that the breath is the wind elements. Okay, and the space is in organs. There's a space between any organs within the organ, or even between the organs to another organs. Those are the space. That's why he have the simile almost like somebody who know as a butcher know how to cut. A butcher definitely know which part is belong to what, which part is belong to what, right there. Okay. You're almost like dissecting your body. Yeah, dissecting body conceptually. Okay. And then the rest one, I put it into same category, same element. That is the number 14. So, however, it divided into, I think it's 6, if I'm not wrong, or 5. But Pali usually say 10. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, I think 5. So it's the kind of visualization. The body will about to be die. Basically, the body will about to be erode, decay. Okay. So this is how you start to actually to strip off your practice of foundation. Why it called foundation? You have established this mindfulness so well that you thoroughly understand the body. Right now, what you're doing to actually what is internal, because which is recovered from a very beautiful skin, and you don't see the internal. From that also to the future, that body also about to be decayed. So, you could understand that it's a kind of way also not develop the mindfulness, which is so strange to a lot of people might be, but it's also a way that start to understand the body. It's not something you can always, almost like, it's not a permanent thing for you. So it's a kind of realistic thing you need to focus on. Okay. This is, as I say, it's not easy. Please don't forget, this is a very difficult, when I say difficult, mean, it is not a text for normal people. You don't talk to people just come to Buddhism and you say about fourfold mindfulness. They will say, ew, and they will run away, okay? Imagine that if you tell a Christian to practice this meditation and then look at this, who want to come to meditate? Don't forget, this is a text very serious about how you really can attain enlightenment. Okay? Yes.
On page number 8.
Okay.
The element number 5 you mentioned is bodily activity versus verbal activity.
Mm-hmm.
In Chinese, 身形 versus 口型。这个口型是错字还是什么的？是不是应该口？
Yeah, we discussed it last time. Actually, we also suspect. At first, I was suspect there was might be like the. No. I know that the 1.5 the 口型学子口型习处嘛. No, but it's funny enough. Actually, in other texts also mention the same thing in Chinese. I think it become a kind of. I suspect it become a kind of a tradition already. That when they have a formula, when you teach something, you first give them a formula, right? And then it become a tradition already. That is to mention that the 口型, because when people into jhana, you don't have any concept anymore. Here refer to the verbal. Verbal here, not talking about the language. It's an internal language. That's what I mentioned. It looks like it means When people, when they first enter the jhana, they don't have, the language will cut away. You know what I mean?
May I say
Yeah.
The way I understand it is, you kind of talk to yourself, but you're like, okay, you know, breathing shorter. And after a certain point, language is no longer needed. It's done.
Yeah. When in breath, you know that, according to the technique, when you practice the stop the bodily action. Okay, there are several methods to practice. Now say that one method. Say the breath, you need to calm the breath, right? This is one of the methods. It's not only, but one of the methods. So when the breath, in breath, every time you just, in breath, you calm the breath, out breath, you calm the breath, in breath, you calm the breath. When the breath becomes more subtle and subtle and subtle and subtle, right? Accordingly, then the limiter will appear. And when the limiter appears, it's really like you're not focusing on limiter, but you are really able to meditate, very bright, very comfortable. But the moment when you enter the jhana, okay, there's a formula, as a formula. So usually is that, so you don't have to say calm the breath, literally, you know what I'm saying? There's a mental language, you don't say that. Because if you still say that, I don't know how to tell you, you cannot enter jhana. you just don't, you just know it, you know what I'm saying?
The focus is on the instruction and not on the action.
Okay.
Doing it without thinking about it.
So I guess that's why he say the 口行出, 自行. Yeah, and this is how then it relates strict after this. But this is not in the Pali way of saying it, because every tradition had a way to take it. This is a Chinese, Saravasi Vada. So, and when you, yeah, but that's why the next one is mentioned about the first jhana. Okay. Any question? Hello. Some people are very quiet. Why? Are you confused now? Or boring? I should change my way of
I'm
talking.
taking it in internally. I don't need verbal anymore.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this 口型 is not like verbal thought, but like a mental process.
Yes.
Mental like.
Meaning a mental language.
Mental.
Because you still know there's an in breath, there's an out breath, right? Then that's beyond the language.
Right.
Mm. Many times maybe easier to say this, like, let's say my mental language is, I think I speak very perfect English. But when I articulate that you need to practice because you have to use a vocal, right? And your aspiration and your kind of force to add, or your lips shape to make perfect sound. However, actually, your mental, that's the reason why a lot of people think they speak perfect English, even though they are not. Unless you record that sound and say, listen to your sound. They're surprised, really, this is me? Did I speak like that, right? So that's that kind of language. Yeah.
It's still verbal thoughts.
Yeah, it's still verbal. That's what it's called verbal. Yeah. All right. So then after this, and then you move on to meditate on what? Meditate on the contemplation of the feelings. So please understand, in the Chinese, the feelings been laid out as there are 21 of the feelings. Okay. Basically, if there's a joy feeling, you have to know there's a joy feeling. When there's a suffering feeling, you know there's a suffering feeling. When there's a neutral feeling, you have to know the neutral feeling. How do you know whether it's a neutral feeling? Because you have to know that either the feeling is, if it's either happy or not happy. No, neither happy nor not happy, then it's a neutral feeling. Okay. So maybe you think it's not important, it's important. I always mention people when they meditate, they say, I meditate, I don't feel anything. And some they get scared. Or some they get very happy because they think they get enlightenment also. Many. But this is actually you come to because you strip off this kind, there are certain commentary explaining that way, That is because you have put away all the rough feeling already. Like you know all this, but you purely, you basically more, you can pay more attention only on the feelings. So when you meditate, you only just observe your feeling. You feel there's different type of feelings. Either they associate with the flesh or associate with the mind. Okay? So, and that's why the next one is associated with the flesh or the mind. That means you know the feelings, joy feelings with the body, within the body, the suffering feeling within the body, and neutral feelings within the body. For example, when you sit there, your leg is pain, you know that's suffering feeling within the flesh. When you feel the pain's gone away, you feel relief, you feel joy, that is mean the joy feeling within the flesh, right? Say that when people meditate on, sometimes the leg is got numb, no feelings, they got fear. Usually people, you see, the teacher will say, continue, just observe it. But people think, no, my leg is pain. No, I have no sensation, so I think no blood circulation, so my leg is going to be decay, or I will be crippled, right? So according to Buddhism, is a wrong view. If we practice a foundation of mindfulness. So, like that. So, and then you also know the feelings can not only, you could feel the feelings from the body, but you also could feel the feelings from the mind, right? There are three. And then you also have the feelings that has a fresh, whether it's been mundane or whether it is, did I translate super mundane? I forget.
No,
worldly or unworldly. So the worldly, like, like people do the massage, you feel very nice, is worldly. Unworldly means you feel like you meditate, you have a jhana, because don't forget, this is also talking about people have jhana, or even you have a good, like a spiritual feelings, right? It's called unworldly. Okay, worldly and unworldly. So, and then also you know that later, even in the deeper sense, you know whether these kind of good feelings or bad feelings or neutral feelings, whether they have attached with your desire or without it attached with the desire, right? It's a much more subtle way to understand the feelings. Hello? Are you fall asleep already?
Can you clarify that?
Well, for example, like when you meditate, say that I have a good feelings, right? So, and because I like it, it's good feeling. So that is the good feeling with the desire. Or because there's a good feelings there. But that's why I mean it become more subtle. You have to know it earlier first. You can differentiate there's a good feelings, and you can differentiate the feelings are connected to the body or the mind, right? And then you may be able to associate the feelings, whether it's become worldly or not worldly. For example, you are still meditating, maybe you're watching TV. So that's connected with the worldly. It's a feelings. And then let's say you are meditate, which is purely the mind, right? Something that because something gone, you don't know what are they. Maybe you just know something has gone, but you still have a pure happy feelings, right? That is mean unworldly, not belong to the world. And then even that not belong to the world, or whether they belong to the world, or whether they are with the flesh or without the flesh, or with them connected to the mind, or whether they are just purely feeling, they still also have with the desire or not desire. Without desire, okay. And then even the jhana too, you can have a jhana with the desire, and you can have a jhana without a desire, okay.
But because most of the worldly feelings that as lay people is usually attached with desire, isn't it? Most of the time, generally speaking.
No, I give one example. It's very simple, maybe easier to say. Yeah, usually this is true.
I mean,
no, but you have to be. You must be able to discern this, and then you move on the next step. That's about the mind. Now, before that, let's say one example. You see, let's say if I meditate, right, and then with the desire, I want to have a jhana. Or say don't jhana, I can calm my mind. Fine, you calm your mind, but you have the joy there. But you still can discern that this kind of joy with the desire, okay? And then somehow say that you are, okay, let's say you do this loving kindness meditation, or I want to know, don't make a confusion. Maybe put it easier. Somehow I just thought, okay, now I don't need to jhana. I don't need to have this desire, like very calm. I just want to observe my body. So then my leg is pain, right? Say, then I forget my leg because I was so good in meditation. Then I just look at my leg. Oh, my leg is pain. Then I know this is a kind of suffering there. I mean, the painful sensation is a feelings, right? Associated with the leg. But I just know it. That means no desire. But then I also can discern a certain part of my body. In the body, say the body now, then there's oh, even though my leg is pain, but I feel my head is so clear, right? What is that? It's a feelings. The feeling is light and clear. It's a pleasant feeling. But you can have a desire with that, or you can just know, okay, it's like that. So without desire. Okay? It's very subtle.
And we want without desire.
When you want,
observing that.
No.
Neither.
No.
I understand.
When you want, that's with a desire. Okay.
But I think the important thing is being mindful whether we notice that very clearly.
Everything.
Right. So that's the point.
So if you want to count here in Chinese version, then they're all 21. Okay. So actually, basically, under the category means just purely know the feelings, whether it's connected to the body or connected to the mind, whether it's worry or whether it's unworry, whether it's with desire or not desire. I think so. I missed one more, right? If there are 21, it should be one more. That's I remember. I'm sorry. Yeah, with the desire, without desired. That's 21, yeah.
Yeah, because then you have
The six category multiplied by 3. Right. 7 category multiplied by 3, right? Get it now? Any other questions? All right, no.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is this desire, do you mean, is it tanha?
it's tanha.
Okay.
Mm. But at this stage, the desire is only associated with the feelings. Okay, so that's why it's still being accumulated or being arranged under the contemplation of feelings.
But at a later stage,
Yeah, we are going to talk about. Okay. And then we move on to the third, the contemplation of mind. Okay. Now, of course, then it's even though you might not necessarily have practiced that stage, but logically you can easily to rationalize that it's possible that if you know the body so well, if you know your feelings so well, and then now you can easily to discern only pure mind, your consciousness, only the pure consciousness. At the time, then you would know that whether there's a consciousness, whether, that's why I say, a mind knows it's actually a mind with the desire as a mind with without the desire with the mind with the desired. Okay? Do you have a question? No. Okay? So whether you have delusion, whether you have anger, whether it was tent, whether it wasn't tent, whether it was whatever did I translate that? Yeah, contracted, distracted, inferior, superior, little, great, cultivate, and cultivate. Basically, the little means your mind is not, you only maybe just limited. The great is more like when people doing a great mind, have a love mind to other, or like, or you have a higher jhana. I explained the last classes already. Okay, we elaborate that a lot. So in other words, you have so many different quality of mind. And then either they deal with the desired or without desire, either they are with the anger and so on. And or actually sometimes you develop a little mind like the focus on anapanasati, or the great mind like the loving kindness, like you generate all the loving kindness to all people all over the world. Or also the little and the great can be understood like whether you have a lower, just a very calm mind, and the great means that you have a very high jhana, like you can meditate on open space at all. Not the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, because either you are in the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, you still only observe the object here. But when you have this so-called spaceless jhana, the object will be gone. So you are on, the mental state is changed, and also there's become unlimited space to you. So that's the 5, usually we can, this is not in the Buddhist term, but like Kolikun language, the Kolikun Buddhist language means the 5th jhana, of course. But we don't have this in Buddhism, but you know, like that. It means the formless jhana, so that, and then from there you to, there's endless of the consciousness, and then to that, then also when you drop this endless of consciousness, and then you have this, there's nothingness, almost like no consciousness, endless, no endless of consciousness, no endless of space. That would be what? It's nothingness. But then the last one is more difficult, but it's also, basically they have a way to do that, and then you either enter to the enlightened perception or not perception, so like that. Don't think this is the myth, it's not. You actually, if you have jhana, if you're good at jhana, then you just need the time to practice, okay? Like that. Those are so-called, also, that's how Abhidhamma defined it. So that's also mean so-called the, now let me say the English term I translate here. It means there's the great mind, okay? Usually great mind have 2 meanings. One means that the mind have uncountable, like loving kindness. When you meditate, not just one person, but you meditate to an infinite space. And or it's also understood as a higher jhana, as a great mind, compared to little mind. Yeah. Yes.
When it says contemplation of mind, so the mind means general state of consciousness?
Yes.
Okay.
But it is a state of consciousness, right? But you know, when you look at the earlier one, the state of the content or the quality of mind, you see that the quality of mind first refer to like whether you have desire or not desire, and whether they have defilements like angers and so on, or whether it's a pure mind or whether it's a tainted mind, you know, contaminated mind, right? So you have to accept it. Like when you have a lustful mind, it's contaminated mind. When you see the same person again, you don't have a lustful mind, so it's uncontaminated mind, right? And so on. And then you have the mind which you can be able to focus and concentrated mind or without concentrated mind, right? So, and then you might have the higher mind, a lower mind, little mind. Higher, lower usually is referred to, there's one explanation referred to, like now I have a lower mind, and then now I'm in a jhana, I'm a higher mind. But when I'm in the first jhana, so I enter the second jhana, the first jhana is a lower mind, the second jhana is a higher mind, right? But then when I'm in second jhana, I know that when I don't have a jhana, and then I can be, that's a higher mind, and the no jhana is the lower mind.
What about the cultivated?
That is about mind. Now let's say, if somehow I observe my feelings, right? So when I'm in the second jhana, so I have the feelings of the proud, right? Then you know that is with a desire feelings, right? And then when there's no, when I'm in no jhana, but my mind is okay. Of course, if your mind is not okay, you don't know. So we're not talking about the very normal people already, right? You practice, and then when your mind is not okay, then you know that you might be have a desire mind, or may not have a desire mind. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So from there, you know the feelings, you know your body, and then you know your consciousness. And then there's no judgment there saying that because I know my consciousness, I'm better. No. You also can see that actually still there's a topic, there's a content about whether you have desire without desire, right? Okay. So you get it now? Without is contaminated or not contaminated. But the feelings here, you don't mention about contaminated because you only know the feelings contaminated it's only through the consciousness. But you only know the feeling whether it's worthy or unworthy. Okay.
So your meaning is even at the level of contemplation of mind, we're still talking about contaminated versus uncontaminated. So it's not like better than feelings or body.
No, there's no any which is better or what, you know. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's move on now. That's what today's topic. Yes.
Is that bhavana? Is it related to bhavana? Cultivation and uncultivated?
Yeah, the cultivated, let me see, the cultivated, yeah, the cultivated and cultivated means it's like whether you are good in bhavana or whether you are not good in practices or you're good in practices, right? I'm sure the meditate people know whether their mind is focused or not focused, whether they have a cultivated mind or not cultivated mind. Even though they are, but even you know you are not in a cultivated mind, you are still practicing the mindfulness or...
Because you're mindful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the reason why in an easier version we say, when someone have the mindfulness, and then that the moment that when you have a mindfulness, I mean, of course, this is the topic of what is mindfulness, but when someone have the mindfulness itself, then the ignorance goes. Okay. Okay. Any other question? We move on our topic today. Our review has done for a long review. Any? Before we go to the Dhamma. So we have done the contemplation to the Chinese version, the contemplation of the body, contemplation of the feelings, and contemplation of the mind. So as a review. And then now we come to the next topic. The next topic. So the contemplation of Dhamma. Before that, any question, ask first, because otherwise you get more confused in the next month.
So I was talking to Stephen about this phrase, like that a distracted mind is a deluded mind. So it's kind of, if you're not in mindfulness, then you're in delusion. Is that?
Yeah, distraction is kind of deluded mind, of course. To Buddhism, certainly believe that if you distract mostly because you still have delusion. But you still can be mindful and observe it. Do not forget that in the earlier pages already mentioned, so even the contemplation of the body, you should be able to just sit there, or while you're lying there, you can sit there and observe yourself sitting there, right? As if like an eye looking at you sitting. So that is, that's how why the establishment of foundation of the body itself is a kind of like a basic, right? A foundation, or that's why all called foundation. That kind of foundation to help you at the end, we are going to talk later, that you will establish really well of the 7 factors of enlightenment.
So let me say that again. So I'm sitting right here, so I'm watching myself sitting here.
Yes.
So that means, because I was just reading something very interesting about the bird's eye, that Aborigines have 80 different ways to say directions.
You know.
So looking at myself kind of...
Sitting there.
Because that makes a lot of sense in terms of neuroscience they're discovering now.
Okay, forget about neuroscience.
But I'm saying, the Buddha would be writing to quantum physics neuroscience if he were alive today. So let me put that out. But I think it's interesting. So you're saying that I'm watching myself watching. So that requires this mental image, though, right? So that requires also, our contemplation requires incredible amounts of visualization, too. If we're going to go into all the decays of the body parts, it does require tremendous amount of visualization power.
Yeah, that is, I mean,
that's my feeling, is that
no,
sort of...
That is, if you are practicing...
No,
I want to say it depends on the system of practice, right? But if you look at the text, since we have always based on this text to discuss now, but when we go to Pali, we maybe have a different scenario, but forget about that at the moment. So when you look at, when I say this, it was on page 12, right? That is actually after the 4 jhana. When you have the 4 jhana, that wasn't really the case, difficult, because your focus are so well established. Your samadhi, your concentration is so well established, yeah.
Right. So you need a very powerful concentration.
It's just like when you practice a force of light by the meditation. So So, and then you just visualize yourself. But it's a little different is that the force of light body meditation, you might be visualize something which is not really real you. But here, this is called foundation of the body, is because it's real you are sitting. And then you have to just meditate and observe you are sitting. Get it now?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of new to me.
No, okay.
But, I mean,
Maybe.
it was kind of the background, but it's now more in the foreground, more kind of obvious.
Let's say they're walking, right? When you're doing a walking meditation, and then that's why it depends on the system. But now here, the text say that is that while you're walking, you can observe you're walking.
I'm going to create an app. Look at the app. It's much easier.
I certainly know that. I certainly know in our.
app.
No, I certainly know some people told me this experience also. During the retreat, they say they find very strange because they do walking meditation. They ask Shiman questions, say, "But I saw myself walking." They get scared. And I myself think it's a good thing, but they get scared. This is all wrong view.
No, I think that's something I became clear now. Because before it wasn't very clear about the visual aspect of it.
All right, why don't we just read a little passage and say a little bit thing, and then we have a break. Let your brain not to be sophisticated with all this information. So that's the reason why some Zen say, don't think this thing too much. No, but I think the Buddha is very clear about what you should do, you should know. Okay, I believe that more. Anyway, right. I believe all masters do the same thing, it's just on a different approach. Okay, right, page 22, shall we read it at least, go to read it together to that. The number 4, 1, okay, contemplation of dharmas, okay. 1, 2, 3, what is the...
With the eye forms there arise internal fetters. When fetters really exist internally, the monk knows that this actually is. Fetters exist internally. When fetters really do not exist internally, he knows that this actually is. Fetters do not exist internally. If there arise not previously reason internal fetters, he knows this as it actually is. If arise and internal fetters have ceased and no longer arise, he knows this as it actually is. There's the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body. The mind objects of condition, this arise internal fetters. When fetters really exist internally, a monk knows this as it actually is. Fetters exist externally. When fetters really do not exist internally, he knows this as it actually is. Fetters do not exist internally. If there arise not previously arisen internal fetters, he knows this as it actually is. If arise and internal fetters have ceased and no longer arise, he knows this as it actually is. Thus monk contemplates internal dharmas with regards to dharmas, contemplates external dharmas with regards to the dharma, and establishes mindfulness on dharmas, possessing, knowing, seeing, understanding, and penetration. This is what is meant by monk contemplating dharmas with regards to dharmas. Namely, the 6 internal bases.
We're becoming a tool. All right, thank you so much. Right. Huh? Huh? You want a break now? You think that we need to explain this first, or have a break first?
No, the break. This sounds very heavy.
Oh, this sounds very heavy. Okay, have a 10 minutes break and be back here in 10 minutes time. Okay, so. Okay. It's something that our consciousness is able to detect or able to know it. So that means as a Dharma. But then, of course, then whether So I think that may be easier to understand first. And however, I believe that this is not necessarily agree with all, as I say, but this is just my belief. That when we say the contemplation of dharmas, it looks like more, certainly it not only just the object that is our mental can able to detect or know, but it's also the object which is according to what the Buddha teachings is about. Of course, that must have the relation to the Buddha teachings. Certainly, it much to do with dependent arising, dependent origination. It's one of them. Okay. So if we have this way to understand, then we will know that is the contemplation of Dharma. It must have to do with in relation to the teachings. So like dependent arising, the what we call the five aggregates, the 12 bases, or the so-called elements, right? Or either you understand as 6 elements or elements, and then also there's what we call these 30 factors of enlightenment, and so on. It must have some connection with that. Okay. Now you might be questioned, really? But here doesn't mention that much. But if you look at the Pali have a similar thing, but a different list. But if you look at the other the content, other version or other texts with similar version of the foundation of mindfulness, they have a different list, but they all has relate to the Buddha's teachings. So, in other words, maybe I like to say that the Dhammas here, maybe the best, or to, at least to my version, understand it as the Dhammas means something our mental can able to be detect, and it has the relation to the Buddha's teachings. Maybe. Okay. Now, so okay, when one actually quite well understand what is the mental, the mind, what is the feelings, and what is the body, right? And then they have 2 things left. Now, why I want to say the 2 things left? According to tradition, you see, we have to, whenever we do this foundation of mindfulness or meditation, or what we call the vipassana in the later term, that means the insight meditation, so vipassana in Chinese, or guanzhao in Chinese. So when we do that, you have to meditate on 5 aggregates, right? Did you do 5 aggregates? When you look at the list, what we have we done 5 aggregates or not? No?
But I guess yes, of course we've done so many times.
You shake your head.
We've done the khandhas or skandhas. Yes.
What is that 5 aggregate? Which one?
Form, body, feeling, perception.
First one is the form, right?
Then
The feelings, right?
Vedana, sanya.
So there's no ink. I use the blue color. And then you have this perception, right? And then formation, right? Or conditioning, depends on what you can say. Or conditioning is okay. And then consciousness. In Chinese, 受、想、行、识哦。台湾是念识，在中国我要改变，要讲识，他们听不懂识。
识不是吃东西吗？
识，真的啊，你问这个中国啊，他们是念识，不是念识。啊，我刚刚从中国回来，所以就要改变从口音。识，来。It's okay， 没关系。This is anyway, forget it. This is not Chinese class. Like a British English and American English, who argue who is right, who's wrong. I mean, garage or garage, you know.
Garage is correct. It's French.
Really? Oh.
American bastardized.
All right. So you see, the foundation of mindfulness on the body is here.
Yep.
The mindfulness on the feelings is here. Right? Get it now? Mm-hmm. The mindfulness of the consciousness is here. Mm-hmm. Now you know that what is left? The mindfulness on the Dharma. It's more focused on what? But it doesn't mean, actually that some people understand the mindfulness of Dharma is focused on everything. It's true also. But however, according to Abhidharma system, either Pali system or the Mahavibhasa system, or I mean the Adisarvastivada system, or even the Pali, they understood sometimes as when you say the foundation of mindfulness, is everything is true, but it's actually, if there's something like more focus on what is in this tool. Of course, in particularly the formation, right? All right. If we have this now, those who study Abhidharma before, they might have much more understanding now. Okay, now let's look at this first. I mean, okay, what does it mean by, what is the establishment of mindfulness? That is contemplating Dharma as a Dharma. So in other words, mean your mindfulness is established, but your object of focus is on the Dharma. And all the things relate to the Dharma. That means all the object of your observing, as well as that the object of observing has direct relation to the Buddha's teachings. Okay. So that's what I mean, the contemplate Dharma as a Dharma. You don't regard the Dharma as other thing, but only the Dharma. Okay. So that's why I say with the eye and forms, the eye is the internal organ. The form as the external organs, external object for the eye, as for the internal organ, eye, take the example as eye, as the condition, because there's a condition of the eyes and the form, what arises? The internal factors, right? Okay, let's say, that how many factors are there? Anyone remember Abhidharma? Where is our Abhidharma class? Yeah, you can say 10, but you can say 10, you can say 9, okay. But in tradition we say 9, okay. Depend on the school. But what are these factors? Anyone know? Okay, let me read it for you. The 9 factors, first one, still the lust, right? And the second one, the anger, the hostility. And then the third one, the conceit. And then the fourth one, ignorance. The fifth one, views. The sixth one, what we call the irrational adherence. And then the eighth one, doubt. No. How many I said already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? The 8th one is jealousy. And then the 9th one, avarice. Okay.
What was the one after?
Huh?
After ignorance?
The after ignorance one is views. Mean you have many views, many ideas, many opinions, views. Now let's say that, let's take this second one, or the first one and second one is easier. Say that, so let's say when I see a person, right, the eyes, conditioned because when my eyes, I had the object of the person, because whatever reason first, forget it. Just say due to some reasons, because due to some reasons, when I see a person, I can arise a kind of factors. It can be the last factors. Oh, he or she is beautiful, the last comes. Or anger, he's such a horrible person, right? Or it can be conceit, right? Like who the hell he is, who the heck this person is, right? The pride, the conceit. Or because ignorance, confused, like when you have confused mind, or because of view, anything. So basically, it just want to say you start to understand when there's internal organ and external object as a condition, so some factors arises. So this is to do with the Dharma, and also have to do with the dependent arisings.
But that's if you're cultivating the mind. You wouldn't normally understand that you're viewing this via the Dharma unless you're cultivating.
Yes. That's why I say this is the later stage. You kind of know the cause and condition already.
Right.
So, but firstly, you will start to understand either through the eyes, through the ears, through the tongue, what you taste, or because what you smell, or what you feel in the body, you feel sensations, or because how your mind think, right? So your mind can think some object. You don't necessarily have to see the person or the things or event, but you could just might think something, and then you get anger. No?
Yes.
You agree?
Mm-hmm.
Right, the same thing, like that, right?
It arises. Just
Yeah.
remember.
So this is how then you understand this conditionality are there. That is, because of the condition of the object and the organs and the object, so factors arises, right? So this is the first paragraph. Any questions here? So it's of course this is all practice meditation, and then so, but when the object, the conditions, I think let me see how here. But it's a complicated subject here. But let's see, go first. He say, so that's why the among know this is actually is the factor exists internally, right? So we know. Now I have the lust, or I have the pride, or because I saw somebody, like people telling me always say, if you want them to be good in meditation, you should shut up, ask them to shut up, right? Is it true or not? Yes and no. Because there are people who do meditation, they might be just open the mouth and enlightened. But in general, maybe it's true. But when the people say, no, that is only the way, you have to let them shut up, they only can attend enlightenment, you know it's wrong, like that. So maybe the person who never have a deep development, so these opinions comes, right, like that. They will think, maybe through my, I must drink the pure water. So only that my mind will be pure. This is what we call the one, what did the translation just now use? I forgot. There's a problem with so many languages sometimes. Where's the list? I think they put it out. Oh, no, it's called irrational adherence. It means paramasha. I mean, you hold a certain rules as a true rules, right?
That's called OCD.
Maybe a kind of like obsession, something like that. Yeah, it's a very literal sense of obsessions. So like that, and they think that's only the rule, like. So and then that what arises kind of what either the pride, or either because then these kind of rules establish in the mind, right?
And anger.
So the factors, or because of anger, whatever. So it's also because you establish a view. So those are called the factors. You know, oh, now I know why I think this is like that, or why I become obsessed of this, why I am anger, why I what. So this is what we call the factors internally. Okay. So, but at the same time, when the factors really do not exist internally, he knows this is actually is. Factors do not exist internally, right? So, for example, the same thing. I can look at the same person again, but if I don't have arise the pride, or what I used to arise, like anger, but it doesn't arise. You know it doesn't arise.
Just know.
Okay, so that is one of the stages, you know. But of course, maybe you ask what it is for. Actually, a lot, because only when you can able to know when things are conditions, factors arises, when things are even in condition, but factors are not arise. Okay, that's what all these passages is about. Okay. How it
about rising? I'm sorry. It's all about rising and ceasing. Right? seeing the feathers arising and ceasing.
It is, but
that's all the phenomena.
No,
of
it is.
asana.
It is, but still, don't jump in that stage yet. You first have to be able to know conditional things happens, but factors can arise or may not arise or may arises. Okay. But if there arises not previously or arising internal factors, in other words, what does it mean? It means that, you know, sometimes when the factors arises, no. So, in other words, I mean, sometimes, you know, when the factors was previously not arise, how do I, let me see. Say that if I will say that, okay, you don't have to speak. So, it might be, usually leads me to arise this what called irrational adherence, right? In like obsession, believing in some rule, and the rules always makes you good, makes you pure, right? But sometimes I also say, still insist that you don't speak. Let me explain it. This is more, okay, let's say, let me say. All right, if we have set a rule, okay, say that if you are doing meditation, no one can talk. Okay. You get it now? No one can talk. But if I set the rules and no one can talk, and I believe that because no one can talk, if the rule is no one can talk, it's good for you, only good for you. So, and I take that as a kind of obsession, right? It means I have developed a kind of factors. That means wrongly believing the rules as the ultimate truth, right? If we don't take that as a means only, but we take that as a really like the rule thing. You know, this is what is happening a lot like that. But sometimes the factors arise. That's the factors called the rational adherence. But sometimes it doesn't, because I still say the same thing, like, please don't talk while you're doing meditation. But I say that without the adherence irrational, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because it's not that I believe it is true. It's just, I just advise you not to do so that, for blah, 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 many reasons, right? Now, this is mean you establish a kind of understanding means what is the bad thing is there, what is the bad thing is not there. Okay, the factor is there or factor is not there. And what it means by the previously means, you see. So previously, I also don't believe it because for whatever reason, I don't believe that when I tell people, don't talk is good for your meditation, I don't take it as a really strong rule, even though it's a good advice. But I don't have previously have this idea. I mean, I don't hold it. That you know, even previously, I don't have it. That's what it means, okay? And then the next one, so that what actually it's, let me see how translation. So he knows that it actually, if arising internal factors have ceased and no longer arise, he knows this is actually is. For example, like if I say don't talk, but I know that actually when I say this, I really believe that don't talk is good for your meditation as a strict rule. Like it's there, but now it goes because I see it. This is, with my awareness, I see it. Okay, it ceased. Then I know it ceased. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this is more difficult. But say the simple example, like when you have a lustful idea, or say the anger idea, may be much easier. I usually think anger is easier because we much easier to see our anger, unpleasant feelings. So when you see a person, you don't like the person, and you know that whether I see the person, I don't have anger. Even though normally I do, but today I don't, right? And then that's easier to say. And sometimes you have anger. And sometimes you know, actually previously I don't have anger. Like, I think about that person, there's no anger. But now I see the person, I got anger, right? That's
so
me.
So you're able to recognize at the point that it had never arisen, but it actually arises.
Yeah.
And you know that.
Yes, and also when it ceases, you know that it ceased.
You know it.
Yeah.
So he knows that it's arisen, and he knows what it actually is.
Okay, and but also do not forget, The condition is given you already.
It's within the person.
Yeah, because you as an object, and then the person as an object. No, you as a subject, and then as the person that you observe as an object. The condition is given. But the factors could be arise or not arise, or previously arise or cease.
But they have to be contained within in order for them to arise. A condition cannot arise unless it previously exists. Is that correct?
No.
Right.
Let me see.
Well,
I'll give you one example. Now, when you see me, presumably, okay,
right.
you should be,
Glad to see my teacher.
you maybe have factors, different one. I don't know what.
Angry. Oh, he's going to teach me Abhidharma.
So you might have, okay, try to adjust your mind like, you just see the conditions, but you have a different factor, you see the factors, right? Right. But if I slap you,
Do I get angry at my teacher? I wonder why the teacher, maybe he had a very good reason.
okay, then you don't have a factors there. But,
Maybe he's trying to teach me
no.
something.
So actually what I want to say,
Through the Dharma that
what I try to say is that, you see, the condition change. Seeing me is one condition, but knowing me that slapping you is another condition.
Right. And I'll recognize at the moment you slap me that it's something different.
So that's why your condition change. The condition change, but your factors also change. But sometimes the condition change, your factor don't have to be changed.
Doesn't have to change.
This is what I try to
So
emphasize.
the next time I see you, you may not slap me, but I still may get angry at you because
You
you
can
slapped
be.
me the previous time. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, yes.
I was wondering if this kind of knowing, this mindfulness of what's happening is related to the sort of original meaning of sati or smriti, of remembering, because there has to be some sort of remembering comparison to, I remembered I didn't have this, now I realize I do have it. So there's sort of a remembering.
It is. Actually, in original language, the word smriti can be translated as memory. But if you only take that as a memory, it's so restricted to the sense of the mind.
Because it doesn't seem to be just a bare awareness of there's a comparison to some previous time.
This is how I believe. That's the reason why among this, the meditation theory, there are so many, some wanted to believe it only the bare awareness. I don't. I take it as actually bare awareness is one of the function of the, if you want to single out the word called the smriti or the sati. But in Sanskrit it's very clear because smriti actually has another meaning, mean memory. So it's in the language itself, is smriti being used as I memorize something, right? But the problem is that even in Hindu Sanskrit, when you read the Patanjali, especially like a Yoga Sutra, which I don't agree them to translate sometimes, because if they only translate that smriti is as a memory, then the practical side is completely gone. It doesn't make sense also. I think maybe best to understand is that the word smriti actually has carry two things. I mean, not only two, but in general. Carry, one is mean the bare awareness and also memory. So.
And then Pali know these 10 fetters, according to Dhamma, contemplate of the Dhamma.
Yeah, they don't. But I mean, as I say, but if you look at all these satipatthana, not only this sutta itself, but the satipatthana samyukta in Samyukta Nikaya, they mention this thing. So, but you have to look at this satipatthana samyukta in Samyukta Nikaya. We're almost done. We haven't finished this one. It took so long. Let me see. Where is it now? So, of course, the same thing, not only the eyes, but so what the eyes does to you as a condition, and object of the eyes is a form. What does the ears, and the object of the ears is a sound, right? The same as the nose. The object of the nose is a smell. The same thing as the tongue. The object of the tongue is the taste, right? And then the body, the object of the body is what? The contact. Like you feel cold, you feel heat, you feel comfortable, you feel warm. Or you sit on a chair, you feel something, right? The contact, the pressure, or tactile sensation. So the object of the body is a one, but the object will be the tactile sensation, right? And the mind is what? Your mental thought, okay? The mind as an object and a subject, and then like a consciousness, but the object will be the tactile, the mental thought, or you could say phenomena, something in the mind, happening in the mind. So the objects, and then as a condition, but you still have to not only know it as a condition, but you must be able to discern even the conditionality are there, but then whether you have factors or without factor, or whether previously the factors are there, or even the factors have ceased. See. So it's interesting. So of course, this is the reason why in the past, in Abhidhamma also discussed that the factor, really where the factor is the factors in the mind or the factors within, kind of like whether factors are associated with the mind, or whether the factor is something like something is just a concept. But anyway, this is just give you, I don't want, but you should know the answer. No, this is why you should know the answer when you study Abhidhamma. Don't tell me you don't know, I will just lock all you down. I forgot to give you all certificates yet. I promise to give you Abhidhamma certificate. We haven't did that yet, right? So we should before Chinese New Year we should celebrate and just give the certificate, and everyone has to turn up here, okay? Except you go to abroad. All right, where are they now? So and that's it actually. Now the next one actually is. But this is, in other words, mean you know that what kind of factors exist, even conditioning is given, okay? Get it now? Or whether the factors, what kind of factors exist, whether the conditioning is not given. So usually we understand as a nighttime, you can be, we said that already, right? You can be very avaricious, mean you are very stingy, you don't want to, stingy, or maybe because of pride, because of jealousy, because of you hold on a certain rule, you hold on a certain rule, and you want everybody like that. So all because your anger, because and those things, right? There are 9 factors are there. But that's the reason why now you understand why Abhidhamma had to study so many factors, because when you know that what the nature of them is much easier to detect. Like a kid, remember the kid? So usually you ask a kid, why you want to hit that person? I don't know. Because he hit me, so I hit. But adults know why we hit, because I anger, right? But if I don't get anger, maybe somebody hit you, you have craving, because the hit, they say, let me hit you, I give you my toy, right? The kid might not hit back, because I want to get a toy, right? You know what I'm saying? The condition of hitting is given, but the factors are different. But I want to say that the reason why in the past I encourage people to study Abhidhamma is just like a kid. But if you know the factors in a proper way, not like, really for practical, for a proper way, understand Abhidhamma, then you know the factors. Oh, this is anger. Oh, this is jealousy. Oh, this is, a lot of people don't even know what's jealousy. So, right, when a little kid, right, they're jealous, they don't know. They just feel not happy. And you just want to grab people. You see, right? Yeah.
So in the practical sense, so you describe something sort of very real to me, where I get angry at a person from work based on something that happened. So the conditions already happened, but I'm still angry. And then I say, but why am I still angry at
Why?
them? What did they do to me? Or what was it, And it was something where the person was being very mean and withheld something. But to hold on to that, I try to recognize it when it arises, and I go, okay, let it go. It happened. That person probably felt that they needed to do this. So that's contemplating the Dharma in the real sense, correct?
But have you figured out why sometimes you get those factors? What kind of factors are they? Not only just anger, sometimes it can be?
Some of it could be irrational adherence. I want to do things a certain way, and this person has thwarted my efforts, stopped me from doing something. And, and just, you know, getting angry because I couldn't. Yeah. But I did, now I know how to name it. I mean, I just think of usually the anger, but also the views. And that could be conceit too. Like my way is the better way.
Certainly, and there are many. So, but that's very important. It doesn't mean that you don't know the object. You know well, just as in the subject and the object there. But then the condition is given, so the factors arises. But the same condition can be given you, but sometimes you find that so exactly the same conditions given you, but then the factors could be different too.
So it could be because it's a different person that you're dealing with?
No, I say let's say the same person, exactly the same thing, but the factors can be different. So this is the reason why here I mentioned you have to even understand the factors are there, the factors are there, the previously factors are there, and then even actually the factors are ceased. You know,
so the moment
I mean the previous
factors
are ceased. Yeah. So and this is and then of course then later we come to more deeper about the two things that it will be end of the actually the almost like the practice element that is about the five hindrances. And then the next one is that that's how to establish or how the end that establish the 7 factors of enlightenment. And then it is believed that if that's you have the 4 factors of mindfulness, so some people take 7 years, some people take 1 day, and then they become very powerful saint. So those are the foundation. That's the main understanding of the foundation of mindfulness. I think we should end here. I'm sure that next week next classes will be can be done all this, and then we'll begin to read about the Pali first. Before we're going to read something else about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and then we'll begin to read the Pali version. Please, when you go back home, not that you had to finish the Chinese version, but you had to read the Pali version at least up to the page what do you call this? The page 36, the full awareness. Yeah, page 36, I.C, right? I will put I.C, the full awareness. Okay. And of course, please, if you're able to have a little, remember the Chinese, roughly, the main elements, what they are. You know, I would suggest you go back home. If you have a week time, write down first is what, second is what, the elements, right? And then when you look at the Pali, at least you have a little draft to compare. So what they are Chinese or what doesn't in the Pali, okay? That would be, and then you'll find that your study becomes much more, much easier, and it's much clearer to you, okay? All right, and then thank you everyone for the class. Even though it's very cold today, few of them are taking the leave. Don't want to get a frostbite.
It's all in the mind.
So, and then I will see you next week then. Yeah, okay. There are many things I need to mention, I forgot, but it's fine. We do have many things to do. And please also have questions. Either you can send an email, and also please, it's always good to ask questions, or you have some feedback, whatever, so. Okay, Subodha, do the transfer merit. Yeah.
Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyang tang anumoditva cirang rakkantu sasanang cirang rakkantu desanang cirang rakkantu mang parang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming. So see you next week.